Greenland, a cold, remote island, but with immense global significance. The United States wants it, not just as a piece of land, but as a strategic asset. President Donald Trump has discussed acquiring Greenland. And it's not just about buying it. There are talks about using military power if needed. Why does Greenland matter so much? Why is it suddenly at the center of international debate? The answer lies in its power, its location, its resources, and its potential to reshape global security. The US sees Greenland as a key to control the Arctic. And for nations like Russia and China, it's becoming an increasingly important prize. But what does this mean for the world, for Greenlanders, and for the future of global politics? Let's dive in and explore why this is happening and what's at stake. The idea of acquiring Greenland is not new, but it's now become a matter of national security for the United States. The White House calls it a priority. Why? Because the Arctic region is becoming more and more crucial. Greenland sits in the middle of it all. It's a massive landmass, strategically located, with access to important natural resources. And as global warming melts the ice, new trade routes and military pathways are opening up. But here's the problem. Greenland is not a US territory. It belongs to Denmark, a NATO ally. And Denmark has made it clear they have no intention of selling. In fact, the US and Denmark are now locked in a diplomatic struggle. The US sees Greenland as vital to its security, but Denmark insists that Greenland's future is up to its people, not external forces. This is where the tension begins. The US wants Greenland for strategic reasons. Denmark insists on protecting Greenland's sovereignty. And the world watches to see who will blink first. To understand the current tension, we need to look at the history of Greenland and its relationship with Denmark. Greenland has been part of Denmark for centuries. In 1979, Greenland gained home rule, giving it more control over its internal affairs. However, Denmark still controls Greenland's defense and foreign policy. This arrangement has worked for decades. But now, in the face of growing geopolitical pressures, the dynamics are shifting. The US sees the Arctic, and specifically Greenland, as critical to its long-term security. Greenland's location has always been important. It lies at the crossroads of North America and Europe. But now, as climate change opens up new shipping lanes and natural resources, the island is becoming an even more valuable piece of the puzzle. But the question remains, should Greenland's future be decided by Denmark, by the US, or by the people of Greenland themselves? Things took a dramatic turn when President Trump publicly floated the idea of acquiring Greenland in 2019. It shocked many, especially since the US has had a military presence there for decades. Trump referred to it as a real estate deal, casually mentioning that Greenland could be useful for the US's strategic interests. But this wasn't just an offhand remark, it was the start of a serious conversation about the future of Greenland. The response from Denmark was swift and firm. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen of Denmark called the idea absurd. She warned that any attempt to take Greenland by force would threaten NATO's unity. This set off a chain reaction. European allies, including the UK, France, and Germany, quickly expressed their support for Denmark, emphasizing that Greenland's future must be decided by the people of Greenland and Denmark, not foreign powers. But the idea didn't go away. In fact, it only intensified. What's really at play here? It's not just about Greenland, but about power dynamics and security. The US sees Greenland as a vital piece in the global puzzle, especially with increasing competition in the Arctic. But the US isn't just thinking in terms of land. They're thinking in terms of influence and control. The Arctic is becoming the new frontier, with melting ice, opening up shipping routes, untapped resources, and strategic military positioning. Behind the scenes, the US military has been preparing for any scenario, and some experts believe a buying option is not off the table. The US government is looking at ways to form agreements, even a compact of free association, to secure its interests. This is about more than just acquiring land. It's about securing the future of the Arctic, a region where global powers are already vying for control. The US sees itself as needing to act fast to stay ahead of Russia and China. But what does this mean for Greenland's people? How much control will they have over their own future if external forces push for ownership? The situation escalates when a senior U.S. official, Stephen Miller, publicly states that it is the formal position of the U.S. government that Greenland should become part of the United States. This was a clear, bold statement that raised tensions even higher. Suddenly, it wasn't just about a land deal or diplomatic talks. It felt like the U.S. was pushing for a much stronger claim. The words used by Miller were hard to ignore. Nobody's going to fight the U.S. over the future of Greenland. This wasn't just a diplomatic dispute, it was a direct challenge. The U.S. was not just negotiating, it was sending a message to Denmark, to NATO, and to the world. Greenland's fate seemed to be hanging in the balance. In the face of these threats, Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen emphasized the need for dialogue, stating that there were misunderstandings to resolve. But the rhetoric from the U.S. was only becoming more aggressive. This created a high-stakes environment where diplomatic relations were tested, and the threat of military action, though subtle, loomed. But what does all of this mean for the people of Greenland? For them, this isn't just a geopolitical issue, it's personal. Greenland has a population of just 57,000 people. Many of them have long harbored a desire for independence from Denmark. Yet, despite this, a majority are opposed to becoming part of the United States. Morgan Angaju, a young Inuit from Ilulissat, expressed her fear and frustration. "We are already claimed by the Greenlandic people," she said. To her, the idea of being claimed by another foreign power, especially the U.S., felt like a violation of their identity and sovereignty. Morgan's words capture the emotional weight of the situation. Greenlanders are not just caught in a political game. They are grappling with their own sense of national identity, their future, and their independence. This is where the human cost of geopolitics comes into play. It's not just about borders or resources. It's about real people with real lives and deep ties to the land they call home. The question becomes, who will speak for Greenland? And more importantly, who has the right to decide its future? The implications of this dispute stretch far beyond Greenland's shores. This is a global issue, one that could affect international relations, military alliances, and the future of the Arctic itself. The Arctic is no longer a region that only concerns the countries within its immediate vicinity. The US, Russia, and China are all jockeying for control over the region, which is rich in resources like oil, gas, and rare earth minerals. NATO, too, has a stake in the region. As a military alliance, the idea of any one country asserting dominance over such a strategically important area could shift the balance of power. The European Union has made its position clear. Greenland's sovereignty must be respected. They've rallied behind Denmark, stating that the decision about Greenland's future lies in the hands of its people and its government. This dispute is also a reminder that global power is no longer confined to traditional borders. The Arctic could become a new battleground for influence, and how the U.S. handles Greenland will have ripple effects across international relations for years to come. What happens next? The future of Greenland is uncertain, and three possible scenarios could unfold. The best-case scenario: diplomacy wins. The U.S. and Denmark come to the table for a respectful dialogue. Both sides recognize the importance of Greenland, but they agree that its future should be decided through peaceful, diplomatic means. Greenland's autonomy is preserved, and a mutually beneficial agreement is reached, strengthening ties between NATO allies. The middle ground: a deal is struck. Greenland may agree to a form of association with the U.S., perhaps something like a compact of free association. This would allow the U.S. to secure its strategic interests in the Arctic without outright annexation. Denmark remains in control, but Greenland could have more say in the arrangement, allowing for greater autonomy. The worst-case scenario: conflict and division. The U.S. pushes for a stronger claim, perhaps even using military force to assert its control. This could lead to a serious fracture within NATO, a breakdown of diplomatic relations, and the destabilization of the Arctic region. Greenland would likely resist. and the human toll of this conflict would be catastrophic, not just for Greenlanders, but for global peace. The future of Greenland hinges on how the world chooses to handle this issue. The decisions made now will shape the Arctic for generations to come. As we reflect on the situation in Greenland, one thing becomes clear. This is not just about land or resources. It's about the future of international relations, the balance of power, and, most importantly, the values we hold as a global community. Greenland's future will not be decided by a single nation, but by the collective will of the people who call it home, the countries that respect their sovereignty, and the allies who stand by them. The world's response will shape the future of the Arctic and perhaps the future of international diplomacy itself. It's time for leaders to move beyond the language of dominance and power. It's time for a solution that respects the rights of the people of Greenland and ensures that the Arctic remains a place of peace and cooperation. The question is, will we act with wisdom, or will we allow power plays to disrupt the future we all share? Now is the time for global cooperation, understanding, and respect. The world is watching.